Okay, good afternoon family once again. This is Council Felix, hearing right away from GTV. And I'm here straight away to give you all this. And we are going to look at our course unity tonight, which is tort. And our topic for that matter, Dela 4, is the rule in Rayland versus Fletcher. That is strict liability. We have to know the core points of this rule. Its purpose. What is it all about? The relationships between the rule and other rules, and then the limitation of the what of the rule. Before we proceed further, let us talk about the case of Rayland versus Fletcher in brief. The facts in this case: the defendant were owners of the mill. So, in the process, they were given an order to construct what reservoirs. When they in the process of constructing the reservoirs, the defendant came across some 4 shafts, and these shafts were filled with soil. So, having constructed some 3 to 4 ponds, let me say signatoms, we call them signatoms. Having constructed 4 signatoms, the defendant the following day experienced a very administrative rainfall, which led to what? Which led to flooding, and the flooding therefore had to damage some other the plaintiff's what properties, and the court held that the defendant was entitled to recover damages. That is the general rule. Now, the general rule under this is 1 must have brought something on land. That is the general rule. In the case of Rayland versus Fletcher, I want us to be clear, straight and clear. This rule, this is not a case. It is a rule that for one to be liable for his acts under this rule must have brought something on land. And on that case, therefore, Fletcher we were regarded by the court to compensate the plaintiff, because the plaintiff had experienced what damages. As we proceed further, let's look at the elements of the what of the rule. Now, if you're giving the elements of the rule, we shall have something like 5 to 6 elements. The first element is the general rule itself. That is the first element for one to be liable under the rule of what? Rule of law. Actual rule of Rayland versus Fletcher. Sorry for that inquiries. The defendant must have brought something on land. In the case of let's have this in an exploratory manner. In the case of David Biria versus Uganda Electric Board, where the defendant left him hanging dangerous cables on the road, and the plaintiff was shocked upon stepping on them. It was held that the rule applied. Yes, in the case of Bibia David versus Uganda, the defendant left hanging wires. You know, zino wires amasanyalaze, these electric wires, left naked electric hanging wires on the roadside. Then the plaintiff, in the process of moving, did not even expect to move or step on anything activated to what? To electricity. And by accident, he stepped on those wires. When the plaintiff appealed, it was held that the defendant was liable and the rule therefore applied. So, I think you see, someone has brought something on land. Let me say you're trying to fence your land, but you don't know people, the families there are having what? The families here are having kids worries right around the bushes, what. Then you throw thorns. You bring 2 trucks of thorns and begin putting thorns in the garden. Then the people come and step on those thorns. My dear, you are liable for that. The other rule is non-natural use of land. In the case of Rayland versus Fletcher, the non-natural use of land was originally an expression to the fact that the defendant had introduced a new substance on land. So, if you look at the case of Ryland versus Fletcher, someone introduced something on land, and that thing was dangerous. So therefore the rule applied. Those are two elements. The one bringing something on land, and then the other, the non-natural use of land. And then let's proceed further and look at something likely to do mischief or misbehave. Here, in this element, something likely to do mischief or misbehave. Here, the thing brought on land must be of mischief if it escapes, for example, dangerous animals under Section 6 of the Animals Act. The other element is escape. There must be escape of that, and we see very well in the case of Ryland versus Fletcher, it rained heavily, and whereby it having rain, these pools got filled and then started flooding, so that is escaping. But there was no way of doing what? Of stopping that water from flooding. So we shall also have defenses to raise under strict liability. Then let's go to damages. In the case of Halsey versus Ecopetrol, where the owner of the car recovered the compensation for damage to its paintwork by the acid smats. And in this case of Halsey, the defendant took the vehicle in the garage. So when he reached there, the defendant had to do what? Actually, he took the vehicle to the petrol station, where the defendant